Good evening, everybody. Thank you. And I want to just thank Mr. Toomey and the members of the Board of Education and the public for the opportunity to present this evening's report on our district testing report. I'll be providing an overview of the district standardized testing results. And the purpose of this presentation is to share how our students performed across state and district assessments and how this data is used to guide instruction, program development, and placement decisions. The full testing report will be available on the district website within the next day or so for anyone wishing to review it in greater detail. The InView assessment is our first assessment that I would like to just speak to a little bit. The InView assessment is administered to students in grades 3 and 6, and both grades will complete this test in January. The assessment is administered digitally and measures students' innate ability to reason and problem solve. It's not a test of content knowledge, but of cognitive ability. The assessment includes 5 areas: sequences, which is identifying patterns; analogies, which is recognizing relationships between words and images; quantitative reasoning, which is analyzing numbers or quantities; verbal reasoning, which is word relationships; and verbal reasoning, which is context and sentence meaning. These results are used as part of our criteria to help support placement decisions and initiate interventions. And you'll see the scores of grade 3 and 6 over time, and they, for the most part, remain consistent. Next slide. The next assessment that I'd like to talk to the public about this evening is the WIDA assessment, and it is administered annually to all students identified as multilingual learners. It measures English language proficiency in 4 key areas: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. WIDA results help us monitor students' progress toward English language proficiency and guide instruction supports within our multilingual programs. Students' proficiency levels vary depending on exposure, and there is no set timeline on how quickly a student may move through these proficiency levels. And if you see, we have, I believe, 41 students who took this assessment. If you go to the next slide, last year, you'll see most of our students are in the entering or emerging and developing criteria. I think if you see where we're at with bridging and reaching, which is the higher levels, we only had about 3 students reach those levels. And again, this is an assessment that really is dependent on the exposure to the English language, and as the child gets more comfortable with the English language, they move through the assessment and these proficiency levels. Okay, so the next few slides we're going to talk about is understanding the NJSLA data. The NJSLA, or the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, provides a snapshot of student performance in English, language arts, mathematics, and science. It's important to remember that these assessments measure only a portion of grade level standards. They are not a complete indicator of a student's overall academic ability, creativity, or success, and that's important. I just want to restate that. They are not a complete indicator of a student's overall academic ability, creativity, or student success. Not all students receive the same test questions, and the number of questions per standard can vary. So because of our relatively small class sizes, even 1 or 2 students can significantly affect the percentage points of proficiency. The NJSLA is designed to track growth for the same group of students over time, rather than comparing different groups year to year. It's also worth noting that science uses 4 proficiency levels instead of 5. Last year marks the last year, last year's assessment will mark the last year that the NJSLA, which was contracted through Pearson, will be administered. Educators were notified in the beginning of the school year that Cambium Assessment Incorporated is the new provider for this adaptive version of the New Jersey statewide assessment. This new assessment will be called the NJSLA Adaptive. This transition involves a new platform managed by Cambium and is mandatory and the mandatory administration of field tests will be taking place in the month of November. Okay, so if you take a look, here are our performance levels. Obviously, on ELA and math, you see for grades 3 through 8, you have levels 1 through 5. And I just explained that in science, which is taken in only 2 grades, you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next slide. Okay, so on this slide, you'll see the NJSLA ELA results. I know it's a little bit difficult to see. The board does have these packets and copies of the presentation in front of them. And again, this will be made public on our website in the next day or so. So we have the NJSLA results here in language arts, and these show grades 3 through 8, including all grades on the left. What you'll see is the levels of proficiency, level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, going across with 2025 being on the right. And for most things that we tend to look at with the NJSLA, you're looking at the last 2 levels of proficiency. Typically, a district will look at how many students are meeting and how many students are exceeding. Here's a graph form of the slide that we just looked at. And obviously, you want to see green, yellow, dark green, more than you see the red and the orange. Okay, here's an NJSLA 3-year comparison. And if you take a look at the, if you take a look at the first column is district, then state, and then the percent above or below state average. Typically, what we like to do is we like to think of the assessment as a K through 8, I should say a 3 through 8 continuum. So it's really where do our children fall at the conclusion of grade 8, because that's when they're graduating from our district. So obviously we're tracking the growth and we're looking at the scores every single year. They're as important to us as the next. But the 8th grade is really where that culminating experience, when they go to the high school, that's when they leave our district. So if you kind of look at, I don't know if we could make it a little smaller just so we can see, 2025 is all the way on the right. And you'll see that, for example, in grade 8 for ELA, 74.3% of our students in district were meeting or exceeding expectations in ELA. At a state level, 57.1 students meet or exceed. So we're well above that, 17% above that in our district, which is something to be proud of and to celebrate. We'll now look at the math scores, and again, they will all be laid out by proficiency levels and by year, so you could make some comparisons to those. And again, what we'd like to tend to look at is our combined 8th grade scores. So if you look at, again, our graph or our visual, which is a little easier than reading the chart, you want to again see the red as small as possible, which we see, you know, pockets maybe of red or orange, but the majority of our graphs are in the green, light green, yellow, and that's where we want to be. And again, a 3-year comparison. Now you'll notice that in the math performance, overall students continue to perform above state averages. A few points to note here are that grade 8 data shown here represents non-algebra students. So if you look at grade 8 and you see that number, in grade 8, some of our 8th grade students take another assessment, which is the Algebra 1 assessment. So when you do a combined of the students that take Algebra 1 and grade 8, you'll see on the very bottom line a combined grade 8 proficiency. And I can't read that number, it's far from me, but it's around 61%. Okay, so 61%. And when you look at just grade 8, you'll see at the state level, we're looking at about 28% of grade 8 students being proficient at the state level, But in our district, we're looking well over 40%. And then when you combine that with the algebra, well over 61%. And I can say that we've made some significant strides with our mathematics. This year, our ELA stayed mostly flat overall in terms of our overall growth, but our mathematics grew significantly. And we put a lot of work around leveling children up in mathematics, and we're now doing the same with ELA as well. The next slide will show the district's performance in science. Once again, we focus on 4 and 5, levels 4 and 5, I should say, and we also note growth in the combined percentage of students performing at grades at levels 3 and 4. Our students consistently perform above state averages, demonstrating progress in scientific reasoning, analysis, and inquiry skills. This is a particularly rigorous assessment requiring students to apply their understanding of scientific concepts in complex ways. And you'll notice that although the percentages are low here, on a state level, all around the state, they are very low as well, which speaks to the assessment. And it also, I just want to note that our 8th grade scores did jump significantly last year, and we're really pleased to see that growth there. And here again, you'll see a visual model of that. And this is what I was alluding to with the state averages, the district averages, and how far above we are from the state. Okay. The next slides are going to be about subgroup performance. So for the next several slides, we're going to highlight subgroup performance, including student demographics and program-based results. I'll move through these slides relatively quickly, noting areas of particular success and improvement, but this information helps us identify where additional supports may be needed to ensure all student groups are making meaningful progress. If you scroll through a little bit, this is a subgroup by race, subgroup by gender, this is subgroup by program, and you'll see that some of these programs that are singled out include general ed on the right, special ed is on the far right is general ed, special ed is to the left of that, Section 504, free and reduced lunch, and then our multilingual learners or ELL learners. And what I just want to note on our subgroups is that, and I have my Director of Special Services here, Mrs. Sherry Copen, our special education population and our general education population, as well as our 504 population, are doing very well. Where we saw some needs of improvement are in our economically disadvantaged students, and sometimes that population tends to be a little bit transient, so sometimes it's a little bit harder to nail down. However, we're working hard with that population, and we're putting resources there to assist that population, as well as our multilingual learners. Sometimes students are coming in to the district with other languages and are still required to assess, and depending on where they're coming from and what schools they've attended has an impact on that. So all populations we're trying to do our best to try to increase the meeting and exceeding groups, but those two highlights this year are specific to what we're focusing on. Great. Our last assessment for the NJSLA is called the DLM assessment, and there is no report for this year on the Dynamic Learning Maps or DLM assessment because fewer than 10 students participated in this, and the state does not publish results to protect student confidentiality. Essentially, this assessment is administered for students with significant cognitive disabilities, and it's a more of a portfolio type of an assessment, and at this point we didn't have any results to report out on. Okay, so this is our moving forward slide, and it summarizes several key points from tonight's report and previews what's ahead for state testing. So our focus for this year centers on strengthening academic programs and ensuring consistency and alignment across all schools. To begin, we are expanding our K-3 diagnostic reading screeners using M-Class Dibbles 8th edition to identify early literacy needs and provide timely interventions. This universal screener process allows teachers to use real-time data to target foundational reading skills and ensure every child develops a strong literacy base. We are also delivering professional learning for teachers in grades 3 to 5 to support the consistent implementation of our core reading materials, including read-alouds and guided reading. This work will help strengthen our instructional coherence and ensure that literacy practices are aligned across classrooms and schools. At the middle school level, the Memorial Junior School Master Schedule Committee, and I see Mr. Anderson in the audience here this evening, he is leading that charge with his team there. They are continuing to explore best practices that maximize instructional time and provide opportunities for both enrichment and intervention. Recommendations from this work will guide schedule refinements for future implementation. So more to come on the Memorial Junior School Master Scheduling Committee. In addition, we are launching a strategic planning process. We've already had our first meeting, and in partnership with TMI Education, who is leading the community through this process, our meeting focused on engaging staff, parents, and community members in developing a shared vision for the district. It's going to also yield a 5-year actionable plan that sets clear goals and priorities for the future. We also continue to strengthen our multi-tiered systems of support, ensuring that all students receive the right level of academic and behavioral support. Through the continued use of leveled literacy intervention and our Sunday program, we are delivering targeted reading support to students in need while monitoring progress closely. And to further promote inclusion, we adjusted K-5 schedules to support a more inclusive instructional model, one that allows for collaborative teaching and equitable access to both core instruction and interventions. Additionally, we are deepening articulation with neighboring districts, including the Hanover Park Regional High School District, to align curriculum expectations and ensure smooth transitions for our students as they move to high school. And finally, as I mentioned, the New Jersey Department of Education is preparing to roll out updates to the NJSLA, which include an infrastructure trial, which we just completed, a field test, which is going to be taking place on November 12th, 13th, and 14th, and this adaptive version of the spring assessment, which we're all so excited and can't wait to see. Although the teachers and we can't really look at the assessment, we're just so excited for this assessment. At this time, there are no changes planned for science. They're going to be keeping the same science assessment using the old NJSLA model. But we anticipate future updates as the state transitions into this new testing platform. This new adaptive format should provide, or we are told, will provide more precise insights into student performance and growth, allowing us to refine instruction even further. And together, these initiatives reflect our district's collective commitment to excellence by using data, collaboration, and innovation to ensure that every student is supported, challenged, and prepared for future success. The final content slide shows our district testing schedule. General testing windows are available on the district testing website, while specific dates for each NJSLA subject area are posted on the district calendar. We aim to keep this information transparent and easily accessible for families. And that concludes the district testing report. presentation. I want to thank you for your continued support of our students, our teachers, and our instructional programs. And at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board or members of the public.
Yeah, Mr. Wasserman,
Yes, Mr. McCabe.
how long has the state required you to report test results for race and gender, and how does the state use that data?
I don't know I don't have an answer on how long we've had to report it. It's been some years now where we've had to report those out. But yeah, we are held accountable for making sure that each of the groups, the subgroups, are growing as well. So those are things that we tend to try to refine and hone in on to make sure that whether it be regardless of the subgroup, that they are also making and showing growth. Okay, thank you. Yes. The WIDA, yes. Yes. We've had some years where it's been a little bit more or less, but for the most part, we're pretty standard on that. It's been pretty consistent for the most part. And I base that on the way we are delivering our services to those children and the needs that we have, to make sure that we have enough teachers for those students. And right now, we're able to accommodate that.
I've got a question. How is it that algebra is charting so well compared to everything else?
Those students are in the advanced track, and we have a very, and I just want to tip a hat to our 8th grade algebra teacher, Mrs. Dietrich. She's a very gifted teacher, and her scores are tremendously skewed high, and we thank her for all her work. So
pass that along. She's doing an excellent job.
Absolutely. 14 years, I just heard, 14 years, Mr. McCabe, for how long they've been collecting that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.